Thrilled to be joined by Kenneth Coats, the founder of KenTech Consulting, the premier background investigation solution firm in the United States, licensed private detective agency. Ken Coats, welcome to the program.
Hello. Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely thrilled that you are joining us. So your website says that you provide the human touch to background checks and investigations. Ken, first let's start with your background because it sounds like fascinating services that you're providing to the business community. Tell us a little bit about your resume and how you led to how it led to starting up your company.
Yes, thanks again for having me this evening. A pleasure to be here. My background is a little interesting. I started in the IT field. My background is in IT. And so the evolution started at Equifax, the credit bureau. I used to work there for many moons ago. And at the time, this was like pre-9/11. And at the time, I had a lot of friends and family who had questions about how does the background credit report in that case, how does the credit report work, and how they clear things up, and so on and so forth. But then after post-9/11, I found that it was became very intense scrutiny on one's background. No longer was it just about credit information. It was about criminal background information or minor offenses that you may have committed, back in high school or college. And the tragedy of it all, it was preventing people from obtaining jobs, education, licenses, housing, you name it. It became like a scarlet letter because the proliferation of a lot of digital information was being made available that people can now search a person's background check very instantly. So my original entrepreneur endeavor involves helping people identify records that they may have out there about them and go about it in a legal means to see if they have opportunity for relief in the form of what is called expungement. So I did some research on that, kind of found out a little bit about it, and seen it was a huge opportunity, and really it was a fragmented society in terms of people of how they would go about getting solutions. So that's how the business, my entrepreneur endeavors kind of was born at that point.
Absolutely fascinating, and I know you've won many awards, honors, and certifications along the way, which are too lengthy to go into during our few-minute conversation. But Kenneth, I'm fascinated by the services that you're providing to the business community. I know our listeners know, and we've discussed it in the past on the air, how important doing background checks are, focusing on security. You can't turn on the news these days without hearing about various instances of both people challenges as well as cybersecurity challenges. But tell us a little bit about the KenTech solution and why it's different than working with anybody else. Why can your company help small businesses like our listeners get the background checks that they need faster and in a better way than others?
Yeah. So we take a unique approach to our background checks. We call it what is called high tech and high touch. So being that my background was in information technology, I understand that the need to move information and move it quick, as you mentioned. Getting information at the right time is critical. But we also respect the old tradition of what I call high-touch investigations. I call it, jokingly, sometimes the Barney Fife way of doing background investigations. So we've uniquely blended both in this hybrid approach in what we call KenTech. So we still do what we call the traditional background investigations. In fact, we work with some of the largest law enforcement agencies and government clients across the country now that require that type of unique hybrid approach. We're totally client cloud-based, so in terms of our information is from a portal. It doesn't require any kind of special learning to hook up to our system, and it's thorough. I mean, we search local, national, as well as over 200 different countries as well.
Absolutely fascinating. And I know that in a few minutes we'll share your website where people can learn more about the services that are provided, including I know there are actually several careers that are available, and we want to make sure that our listeners can find that and learn more. But Ken, in our minute or two remaining, I want to make sure we talk a little bit about innovation, because that's a theme this week. We're approaching the final week or two of 2016, moving into 2017. And Kenneth, I think that one of the things that make you stand out from everybody else is this concept of innovation and how you continue to invest in new processes and more improvement to help the business community. Tell us a little bit about why that's become such a priority for you.
Yeah, well, because we're in a very complicated industry, meaning background checks, and when you're dealing with human capital, of understanding what you can see, what you can't see, what you should be looking at. There's always the fear of either what I call over-screening, meaning that people go do a Google search, find some information, and make that part of their hiring decision that's not compliant, or they underscreen where they will do that same type of search, and because it's only checking certain information, it's not as thorough. So what's going to be key, and what we've been seeing in government regulations now, is they're really clamping down on companies that are not standing up to standards. It's very important that people are allowed to kind of tell their story in terms of who they are and being able to validate that information. So we go through that process that we believe helps companies find that next best hire.
Well, you guys are doing fascinating work, and again, a solution both for big businesses and for small businesses. We are running out of time. We got about 30 seconds remaining. Kenneth, I want to make sure our listeners can find KenTech solutions on the web. What's the best way for people to find you, to learn more about the company?
Easily, we're at www.e, that's E as a network, KenTech, KenTech.com, or you can call us at 800-6-CHECK. So that's the number 6, and then check, CHEC.
Fantastic. Kenneth Coats, we appreciate your time on the air. I encourage our listeners find out more about the company. Fascinating. Small business providing solutions across the country, background checks, security solutions. Kenneth, once again, thanks for joining us on the air. We've got more tips, advice, and information coming up for all of our listeners after this quick break.